morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Wednesday, the 6th day of December, year of our Lord 2017. Welcome to the John Moore Show. Your prepper tip of the day. I want to encourage all of you to work on your physical conditioning. That would be both aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic would be the ability to say, run a mile. Anaerobic would be the ability to lift a heavy weight. Just a very shorthand version there. So work on your physical conditioning. That's your prepper tip of the day. We have a patient waiting in the green room, my friend, Professor James McCanney. Professor McCanney is a credentialed astrophysicist. He has taught astrophysics at the university level at Cornell University, taught mathematics at Cornell University. He's an accomplished author, having authored, I believe, 10 books and more on the way. Amateur archaeologist and radio talk show host. Jim, good morning, sir.
Hey.
Really good. I assume you probably know that the big news is the expected official announcement today by President Donald Trump about moving the United States Embassy from Tel Aviv, Israel, to Jerusalem, Israel. It's a big deal, isn't it, sir?
Well, I just pulled up CNN headlines, which I typically do to see what the CIA is trying to pawn off on the public. But it's definitely in the news. So what do you think? What's your opinion of that?
Well, it's kind of ironic. The Muslim world united together in June of 1967 to attack Israel, and they lost. Now they're crying in their beer over the consequences of losing. 40 years ago, this past June, the 6-Day War, they lost they lost Gaza. What's the territory called Palestine was captured, and Jerusalem was captured. And when you start a war, Jim, you have to be prepared to live with the consequences. And Israel was going to stay inside its defined borders until they were attacked by the combined Muslim armies and were defeated by the tiny country of Israel. And now the consequences are coming home to roost. All of the consequence because the combined Muslim armies in 1967 attacked Israel and they lost. So this needs to happen. I'm glad to see we finally got a president with the backbone to stand up to the combined Muslim countries and do the right thing and declare, as far as the United States policy is concerned, declare Jerusalem to be the true capital of Israel and move our embassy there. There's going to be a lot of fallout from this. Threatened violence. The president of Turkey is calling a summit of the combined Muslim countries next week. This will have very dramatic consequences, won't it?
Well, I just heard some statistics, which is interesting. And Jerusalem, of course, was the hangout of Christ. He was born in Bethlehem, which I understand is about 7 miles away. But the three religions of the world all claim their basis there, although Mecca seems to be more the Muslim world center than Jerusalem. But they all make claims, historic claims on Jerusalem, even though they didn't get their beginning at the same time. The Muslims being the last ones to make a showing, so to speak, in terms of organized, what we might call religion, if you want to call it that. It's like, in a lot of the Muslim countries, there are dozens of sects which don't interact at all. And
well, they do interact. They murder each other. That's their interaction. They murder each other. If Muslims can't find a Christian or a Jew to murder, they murder each other, and they're quite happy to do so.
But when I say don't interact, I mean they don't go to the, say, grocery store, or the whatever store, if you want to call it store. They don't go to the. They don't partake in anything of the other groups. They're totally secular.
They have separate neighborhoods, separate mosques. They don't socialize in any social interaction whatsoever. That's very true. Yes, sir.
And so, I mean, to call Muslims a religion is, to me, kind of far-fetched, because it would be difficult to find a central train of thought that's common amongst all of them. And, anyway, as far as a lot of the things historical or whatever, it's like, the fight will go on, and I try and keep busy doing my things, because that's as far as I can influence the world. So a lot of these things are just, they're out of my realm. And certainly most of us had nothing to do with any of this historically.
Well, of course not. Of course not.
But anyway, we'll see what happens, but definitely some fallout. But so I'm probably not the best person to ask about such things, because I have other opinions about history and things like that. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think any of us know what really happened way back when, and all the underpinnings of history. We kind of have an idea that what we're taught is complete baloney. We have an idea of what happened in a lot of the cases, like in World War II, or in a lot of the other situations that we find ourselves locked in today, like North Korea. But to what really is going on behind the scenes and who's pulling the strings is difficult for most people to grasp. And certainly
it is because it's hidden from sight. Right.
Yeah, it's certainly not visible in Western society. Between the news media and the rewriting of history and the groups influential in education, oh my goodness, if you can find a shred of truth anywhere, you're lucky, let alone a composite, history of what got us to where we are today.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, there's lots of things going on in the world. The Middle East, of course, is one of the major ones. We've got the events taking place in the Korean Peninsula, the U.S. economy, the opioid epidemic, which is killing thousands of Americans every year. No shortage of issues, is there, sir?
No, and not the least of which is Puerto Rico being evacuated right now. Lots and lots of people are leaving Puerto Rico. So, right. And that was the design. That was a design storm to do exactly that, to evacuate that island. And the consequences will not be really visible, because there's going to be a silent crime wave moving across the United States as these people. Puerto Rico was unique in that it was contained. And so the crime that was a lot of petty street crime, in a sense, was contained on the island. The people couldn't leave. They were, they lived there. That was their culture. They weren't going to move until Hurricane Maria ripped the island to shreds and left them with nothing else. And that's what they wanted to do to Florida. They wanted to eventually, Rick Scott was up there, everybody evacuate. Everybody's got to leave Florida. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to evacuate Atlanta, which is a kind of a cesspool in terms of the same type of cultural degradation. That's what they were trying to do to Atlanta, but the end result is, where do all those people go?
Exactly.
With nothing. And, then you just see this crime wave, kind of an invisible crime wave moving across the United States as the remnant move out and try and, survive off the land, so to speak, kind of a slash and burn form of street living.
Right. Well, metropolitan Atlanta has a population of less than 500,000, but the whole metropolitan area surrounding Atlanta is probably between 2 and 3 million once you get outside the city limits into the suburbs. It's a huge area, and you're right, Jim. Where would all these people go?
Yeah, I've met a lot of people, professional people, that left Atlanta, and they were just, thrilled to be gone from there. These were medical people, these were other types of professional people, and just ecstatic when they found some other job that they could go to where they could get out of there. It was a daily issue, where you could not walk down the street or go someplace, or you couldn't do anything. And of course, that was a hub of the Mexican drug trafficking. Yeah.
Well, the metropolitan area, I was wrong. The metropolitan area is not quite 6 million people. Ninth largest metropolitan area in the United States. So it's a massive cosmopolitan area with nearly 6 million residents. Yeah. And I want nothing to do with Atlanta, Georgia. They can keep it. It's a major business center and convention center as well, of course.
Right, but some of the worst water on the planet. So if you go to the convention there, you better take a portable water filter with you, for starters. Possibly a concealed weapon or two, and possibly a bulletproof vest underneath that.
Well, I always make decisions on personal protection based on the threat level. And I agree with you, Jim. I would probably carry not one but two concealed weapons, and body armor would be advised depending on the situation. And situational awareness. This is for all our listeners here. Situational awareness. You need to be very alert anytime you're in a urban, suburban area of any kind, anywhere in the United States. Some places are obviously more dangerous than others, such as New York, Baltimore, Atlanta, Chicago, Detroit, and so forth. So you adjust your situational awareness and your level of alert dependent on where you're going, the time of day you're going there, and so forth, don't you, Jim?
Exactly. Yeah. I was just in Chicago, and I thought it was wonderful, but there again, when you're doing tourist things, with groups of people, you're probably not a target. But, get off by yourself, and, that can change real quick.
Well, if you're driving a rental car in Chicago and make a wrong turn, you could end up in an area that's basically a war zone really quick.
Yeah. Yep.
As true in most major cities, by the way. I'm not just in Chicago.
Yeah, they were famous for having more deaths in Chicago than during the Vietnam War on a daily basis. So,
yeah, we were losing during some of the worst parts of combat, typically 12 to 15 men a day in Vietnam. There was exceptions, of course, but that was a typical death count, was 12 to 15 men a day during the Vietnam War. And about 8 or 10 times that many wounded, by the way.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right. It's usually a factor of 10, but Chicago had there were weekends with 43 dead in a given day. So it was literally a more dangerous place to be than the Vietnam War on the ground.
A much more confined space. The city of Chicago is tiny compared to the entire country of Vietnam. I think it's a fair statement to say that parts of Chicago are basically as dangerous as a war zone. I don't doubt that for a moment.
Well, and especially for somebody like you and me, based on physical characteristics, let's just put it that way.
Right. Well, that's true also. If you got a question or comment, give us a call at 800-313-9443. Well, Jim, you've got lots of projects you're involved with. Any updates on any of them for us? I'll just remind people about the wing generator. If people are interested in getting
energy at a ranch, farm, someplace like that where you want to be independent. And people have been responding, very interesting, talking to people. And we'll get back to you. But the information is at the top of my webpage. I won't repeat the email on the address on the air because it's too long. So just go to my webpage and the information is there. Write an email with the subject title Wing, and we will get back to you. And, have a questionnaire. But for people who want to be basically off the grid, Grid Connect, people who think they're going to sell electricity back to the power company, it's really a bad investment. That's all I can tell you. And the very simple reason is most places the electric company does not pay you. They give you credits.
That's right.
For electricity that you might use in the future over your production level. And so it's not something that pays you back. And if you have a system that really makes you independent, then you don't need the power company anymore. You can still have them as a supplement, etc. But the idea is to eliminate that big electric bill. And a lot of farms and ranches have significant electric bills. And so the trick is to have a payback on your own equipment that's very short term, and then you're energy independent also. You're not dependent on them. And a lot of those people have the worst service. They're out at the end of the line, the power goes down, they're at the mercy of a very unresponsive electric company. Right. So those are the kind of people that are, and so, the idea of Grid Connect is a bad idea. It's just, it's not something that's going to pay you back. And so, but if somebody's interested, that's fine.
Okay, we have a break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th of December. Professor McCanney's website is linked on my links page at thelibertyman.com. And Jim, you've got not one but 2 radio shows. Tell people how they can listen live and the archives, if you would, please, sir.
Yes, John. The live airing of my weekly commercial-free show is from WWCR, Nashville, Tennessee, every Thursday evening, 6 p.m. Central Time. And re-airs Friday evening, 10 p.m. and Saturday morning, 3 a.m. Central Time from WTWW. All the ways to listen are on my webpage, And then the web, also the archives are there. And I was a little slow in getting the archives up this past month. I was, let me say, more than rather busy with some things going on, but I'm back pretty much to normal, whatever normal is. And then my paid cast, $3.95 a month for an extra hour every week. And the month of November topic was space travel, past, present, and beyond. And then the topic for December being the myth of alternative energy. And so that's the December topic for the paid cast, and that's all available on my webpage, all the information.
All right. Thank you, sir. I know you got a new book in the works. How close are we to publication, sir?
Oh, that's a ways out. I'm very involved in something right now. So these things sometimes take priority one over the other. But
okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, I need to clone myself. I haven't found out the process to do that yet, but I have to concentrate on one thing. Otherwise, I'm a plate spinner, and all I do is spin plates. So, and plus, I'm real busy with just keeping up all the weekly, tasks of maintaining the web page, communications with people, and et cetera. So,
our younger listeners may not know what a plate spinner is. It used to be a pretty common thing in TV variety shows, I guess you could say. Well, I'll give a quick description, and you could I'm sure people can find this stuff on YouTube. The performer would have maybe 20 or so wood dowels that may be 3/8 of an inch, half an inch in diameter, 4 feet tall, vertical, and would put what appeared to be a common dinner plate on there and get it spinning with a dowel. Start with one, go to two, and eventually have a couple of dozen of these things, and would have to incrementally go back to each one and give it a couple of more spins to keep it going. And it was quite an athletic endeavor, to say the least, to do that. And it was entertaining, but after you've seen it 2 or 3 times, you basically don't want to see it anymore, do you?
Right. Yeah, it's but the idea is that you're running from plate to plate, keeping this plate spinning while the other plate is slowing down and almost ready to fall, and the idea is to keep all the plates spinning without any of them falling. And so, anyway, that's the plate spinner, but, translated into modern life of Jim McCanny, well, it involves probably 20 plates that are spinning and have to keep spinning. And it's unfortunate, in a sense, that science has to be done this way, but then again, that's what it takes to be independent and not be subject to government funding and all of the rigors and control of the scientists who get their advanced degree in physics or chemistry or whatever, mathematics, and then go off and think that they've got the world by the tail when they get their first postdoc, and then they get their first job only 10 years later to realize that everything they've done is owned by somebody else, and they don't own anything, and the only thing they can hope for is to get through another 10 years so they can retire. That's the life of a scientist today.
Right. Well, that's unfortunate. But that's an unfortunate reality, but you've avoided that, haven't you, sir?
Yeah, so that's what I have to do to and people, when I go to scientific meetings, I have my badge. They give you a little pin-on badge when you go to American Geophysical or, I used to be in closed military meetings with my science stuff and electric propulsion systems, whatever it was. And people would ask me, they'd say, well, independent scientist. I had independent scientist instead of Goddard Space Flight Center and they would ask me what that meant.
Right. I didn't know. That's funny. We got a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th day of December. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Our project of locating images of continents with new coastlines and television shows and movies, yes, it continues to move forward. It does. It continues to move forward. And let's see here. We go to thelibertyman.com. We scroll down the left side. And the most recent images is a couple of films from both of them from 1957. That's not the latest two, but the last three, two from 1957 and one a documentary on Scientology. Interesting stuff. If you find an image of a continent with new coastlines on a TV show or movie, get that to me. As a thank you, you get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs. And it's a fun project. Really took off this year. And let's move forward with doubling the count that we got this past year. Also, my website, of course, are energy cleaners. This is my home business. When you make an order for an energy cleaner, I'm the guy that packs them up. I take them to the little country post office in Cherryville, Missouri, where they have an all-you-can-eat catfish buffet for less than $10 every Friday. And they ship them off priority mail, U.S. Postal Service. If you have arthritis pain, joint pain, or back pain, you need an energy cleaner. Keep in mind, I have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Not getting a great night's sleep, same thing. You need an energy cleaner. Why procrastinate? Because I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. You're risking nothing when you get an energy cleaner. So make that decision. You can make your purchase at my website. Your energy cleaner, your mattress pad using PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online, MasterCard, Visa. And, of course, you can send me a check. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. Toll-free our line, here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Professor James McCanny. His website's linked on my links page. And we're taking your questions, calls, and comments at 800-313-9443. Jim, what topics will you be covering on your radio show tomorrow evening?
I don't have any notes written up yet for tomorrow, although it's the ongoing theme of comets becoming planets, so I'm concentrating on that. And so there's a lot of activity relative to that. That last week there was a specific comet I talked about, which had a tail disconnect event. And so that was my last week's topic. So every week I find some relevant astronomical event and then weave it into that theme.
All right. Well, that's certainly interesting, and I hope people will tune in. And you've got lectures on these radio shows going back more than 10 years, don't you, sir?
Oh, it's about 17 years. And another topic I'm covering right now is the Christmas star. Now, I did a lecture with a talk show host named Brad Walton. He was a talk show host from WCCO Radio from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I did many interviews with him. But one I did was dealing with the Christmas star. And after that interview, I talked about the Christmas star had to have been a very unusual comet, because the three kings, the Magi, were looking for this unusual symbol in the sky, and they discovered it in the east, and they followed it to the west, and then they met together and continued on. And Herod had seen this and was very inquisitive about that when they were there, and they left in the middle of the night and did not go back because Herod wanted them to bring back news when they found the Messiah. So anyway, the Christmas star was something very unusual, and after that show, there were no less than 30,000 entries, new entries on the internet, saying the Christmas star was a planetary alignment. And so anyway, that theme has been carried on for literally probably a decade now. And so I warn your listeners, you're going to be barraged. They're even saying now that there was no Christmas star. But they're deathly afraid of anybody thinking that the Christmas star was a comet, which it clearly was. And so the idea of a planetary alignment, we have 2 or 3 planetary alignments every year. And these are just visual alignments in the sky, and they only last for a couple hours, and then they go away. So there's no way it could be a planetary alignment. That's just stupid. But they promote this, and you find astronomers all over the place saying that the Christmas star was a planetary alignment. And like I said, this year, they're coming out with, there wasn't a Christmas star. So I'm just warning people, you're going to be barraged by this. Why are they deathly afraid of people understanding that the Christmas star was a comet? So that's an interesting question in itself.
It is. It is. Well, the agenda of the powers that be is to do anything they can to dissuade people from belief in our Lord Jesus and belief in the truth of the Bible. And they'll go to great extremes to achieve that goal, won't they, sir?
Oh, absolutely. It's just unbelievable. There's even a movie out called The Star. I've not seen it, but I've only heard about it. But I'm trying to get more information. I might be able to get to see this, but it's somehow supposedly an accurate rendition, and which my paidcast when in November I'm talking about the in the 50s the development and kind of the awareness of rocketry in the general public. Walt Disney had a presentation of the moon launch and the moon landing. And it's odd that Walt Disney artists then became essential parts of the space program to do animation. So there was a transition in which we no longer saw real pictures from outer space, but animations, artist renditions of what was going on, showing the spacecraft turning, etc., and approaching a planet, but no real data. So this is what we've seen repeatedly from NASA is animations. And of course, we know that the moon landing, the alleged moon landing, photographs were all faked and videos, and the alleged originals destroyed and lost, etc. But anyway, making the public aware of space has been an industry going back to the 1950s, but with a very specific twist to it. Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
John, I wanted to mention that, we've talked about my paper about the Nazca lines on this show.
Yes.
And whenever we bridge a topic like that and the public becomes aware, the disinformation machines go into full bore. What you'll find if you pull up Nazca lines or anything like that, what you'll get is just a bounty of videos talking about these aliens supposedly that they're finding all over Nazca. And it's all a bunch of hoaxes, and it's very, very well done hoaxes. And so I haven't seen anything that's believable, that has a shred of believability to it. but they actually make up like little mannequins and take X-rays of them and things like that, and they're really poorly done.
All right. Well,
but
I firmly believe, Jim, that this whole alien story is to keep in place Darwinian evolutionary theory, because once people understand that our ancestors, not aliens, possessed advanced technology 12,000 plus years ago, the entire bogus theory of our Darwinian evolution basically falls apart and has no basis in reality whatsoever, which it already doesn't, but it would make it completely collapse, wouldn't it, sir?
Yeah, it's a theory that I talked about this, I think one of my paid casts recently, but there's no proof. And when we talk about proof of something, it takes scientists in situ, in other words, on site, multiple scientists observing the same thing or in different regions. Nobody has ever witnessed the creation of a new species. So, when you look at the diversity in the fact that, say, let's take mushrooms. Mushrooms grow all over the place. They're individuals. They're the same mushrooms that were there 20,000 years ago, and their species have not changed.
Right.
Their subspecies and the categorization, etc. That's just one of the good examples, and they don't cross-pollinate. So, Amanita muscaria does not become a Caesar's mushroom, no matter how many millions of times they grow next to one another in the woods. So, and they don't cross or anything else. They remain separate. And that's just a simple example for professors. And I guarantee you there's no professor on the planet that was there at the beginning of the universe or the beginning of the first cell allegedly forming from organic molecules. So, where does that leave us? It leaves it with a theory of evolution that has no proof. The creationists fall into the trap of trying to give scientific evidence for creation, and that's about as ludicrous as evolution itself. Because if you believe in creation, that's all you need. You don't need scientific proof. In fact, by its very definition, there is no scientific proof.
And never will be. And never will.
Never could be. Never could be. By definition.
Right. Well, that's the basic premise of Darwinian evolution, is that one species can become another species given enough time, and there never has been, never will be any proof of that.
No, it's the whole issue is we see modifications within very limited situations within a given species, what we call a species. But classifying animals and plants according to external characteristics has never been a good method of classification. It started out because that was, people would say, well, that dog over there is different than that cat over there, and start giving characteristics and species. But that's a terrible way to classify based on genetics, which is something that people never saw before. And I also question the genetic studies. People send their blood in or whatever, and they say, oh, where are they from or what's their genetic strain? I really question the scientific basis for that. It's good for a business. They're making a lot of money off of it, but I really question the scientific basis for what the results are that they're sending out to people, and people think, oh, this is where they're from or whatever. And they're, again, highly questionable science, although a nice, profitable business for somebody.
Right. Very, very true. Okay. Well, what direction you want to go next, Jim?
I just wanted to reiterate about the Nazca lines. Be prepared to see, in public more and more these hokey stories, but somebody is spending a lot of time and a lot of money producing this stuff. This just doesn't come out of thin air. It's not Johnny in his garage doing this. This is major production, and somebody is behind this to flood the information or misinformation, and it's centered around NASCA. So it looks like what I've done is hit the nail on the head once again, and the end result is this massive disinformation campaign that takes you off in another direction whenever somebody says NASCA.
I know you've been working with the authorities down there with that government in Peru, and it's a long process dealing with any bureaucratic agency, isn't it, sir?
It's really ridiculous, because within those groups you have academicians who have risen up into government positions as authorities, and it's like any what you might call peer-reviewed process. You have the people who've been out there supposedly studying this for decades and didn't know what they were looking at, and when it comes along, then they resist it. It's like, because they're supposed to be the authorities. So it's really an odd process. Peer review has never worked for that reason. It's kind of like evolution. Evolution never can get out of its own species, and peer review can never get out of its own paradigm.
Right. So right. Yeah, we see this a lot in Egypt, where anything that challenges the belief, which has no evidence also that the three great pyramids were built as burial monuments, will be effectively countered by the authorities, won't it?
Oh, exactly. Or who even built them. It's very common for civilizations to come along and then repopulate an existing set of structures. But I've been on archaeological sites where it's a brand new, for example, down in Mexico, and brand new archaeological site, and they're digging stuff up out of the ground, and the archaeologist is on site going, well, that's from the classical period. And I was like, what are you talking about? You know, what do you mean the classical period? I mean, it's all, they're just making it up. And once it's classified, then that's the tag it gets. That's what it remains forever. And there's nobody there that can, change it's like the scientific peer-reviewed journals in space science and astronomy. Those can never be changed because that's considered to be the gospel truth. Most of them were written before the space age, when we got out close to planets and moons and comets, etc. And that's the basis, and nobody can change it. That's considered to be known knowledge because it was peer-reviewed. And it's 98% of it, you could just take it out and burn it because it's worthless.
Right. Well, so the truth was not well received frequently, is it, Jim? No, especially when it comes to science. And so we're locked into another 50 years of bad science with NASA at the helm. I got a kick out of this. There's a guy that got on a number of years ago, little skinny tie NASA guy, and he goes, NASA will now be the Planet X experts. If you want to know about Planet X, listen to NASA. And I'm like, what? And then more recently, there was a woman that came out from NASA claiming that they're going to be the alien specialists now. And so it's like, okay, whatever. They want to get in front of this, don't they?
Yeah.
I think we have a break. I thought I heard music. There it is. We got a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th of December. We got a caller on hold. We got Glenn in Philadelphia. Good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Jim. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, very good. Yeah, okay, yes, hi. Jim, I just wanted to second what you were saying about the species and evolution and that sort of thing. We have kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, and that's how like the Latin names are assigned to the various families, genuses, and the species. And you could talk about subspecies. They might be able to demonstrate some sort of microevolution in subspecies or something like that, or you certainly have the diversity of dog breeds or cat breeds and that sort of thing. But there's no evidence extant in the fossil record demonstrating intergenus evolution of any kind. And this is like the great farce. I mean, there just isn't anything in the fossil record to demonstrate that. And so evolution is just this great preposterous joke, as it's marketed to us.
It took if you look at what Darwin did, he made a leap of faith, and he looked at animals that looked a little different. Of course, the famous archaeological analysis of out in the Pacific Ocean, and what he did then was made a leap of faith that this is how the species evolved. And that's been with us ever since, and once it got accepted, then it was like plate tectonics. I heard an interesting story the other day that the guy that promoted and established plate tectonics worked the rest of his life trying to get it out of the textbooks because they had proven that it doesn't work, that subduction of continents doesn't work. And it physically can't happen because you can't have one plate that has a less dense structure being pushed under down into a denser part of the earth. It doesn't work. And it's like diamonds forming down deep in the earth. You think, there must be a lot of pressure there. But how do you form a diamond which is harder being compressed by things that are softer? It doesn't work. Most of geology is based on myths, just like evolution.
Right. Well, subduction could be giving way to sort of this slow slip friction between the plates butting up against one another, but not necessarily subducting one under the other. Here's some of that stuff, being kicked around now too. About the aliens and the ancient civilizations and that sort of stuff, I find Steve Quayle's work on the ancient biblical tales of the giants and that sort of thing. This idea of the Nephilim, the Rephaim, Anakim, these various species of humans intermingled with angels, as it's explained and talked about in the Bible, to be very intriguing.
Gentlemen, we are out of time. We are out of time.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Jim. Have you back next Wednesday.
Thank you, John.
Okay, top of the hour break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we are on air, and we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, the Wednesday, the 6th day of December. Prep tip of the day. I need you to consider, please, working on your physical conditioning. We're going to expand on this. Aerobic physical conditioning and anaerobic physical conditioning, both of which are very important. And let's just go from there. We'll have open lines, by the way. The call number is 800-313-9443. American males tend to focus more on anaerobic strength. That would be upper body strength involving bench presses and exercises of that nature, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. Anaerobic strength. Aerobic strength is just as important. That's the ability to do tasks over a long period of time. And we'll look at the difference here real quick so I can give you an example. An example of anaerobic strength would be the ability to pick up a 200-pound piece of furniture and lift it into a truck. That would be anaerobic strength. Aerobic strength would be the ability to pick up 50-pound bags of of grain for 8-hour shift with a half-hour lunch break. Pick them up and load them into a truck. Aerobic strength and anaerobic strength. Another example would be the ability to run. That's a great example of aerobic strength, which is largely dictated, as far as running is concerned, by the ability of your body to get oxygen into your blood. That's a large part of being able to run. Now, as my regular listeners know, I've been a runner all my life. I competed in track beginning in junior high school. My last competition was 10 years ago. I am considering once again competing in the Senior Olympics this coming year, and my main event being the 100-meter dash, which I ran in 15.7 seconds as a 60-year-old. And for me, it's to be motivated to train. Is what I'm trying to say. I need a goal in mind. That's just the way I'm wired. If my goal is to compete in an event, then I will train and work out and train and work out and work towards that goal, which I really enjoy that, quite frankly. I do. So let's see, you're sitting there wherever you might be in Florida, Washington State, Texas, California, New York, New Hampshire, Maine, whatever it might be, and you're thinking about, boy, I'd like to get in better physical conditioning. So what does that look like? Well, first of all, you need to make sure you don't have any underlying health concerns that could cause you harm. You really, if you haven't had a physical in a while, you might be well advised to do that, to make sure that your plans will not cause you any harm. That would be a wise thing to do. Your healthcare provider, healthcare professional that you deal with will say, well, you can do anything you want, or they may give you limitations. And it would be wise to respect any limitations that your healthcare professional recommends. That would be very wise. And then go from there. So what does that look like? Well, first of all, cutting back on things that are harmful, such as tobacco, consumption of tobacco products. And it doesn't matter what they are. Cutting back or eliminating would be good. Excessive consumption of alcohol would be good. Excessive consumption of products containing sugar would be good. Being sure you stay properly hydrated. We talk about this a lot Fridays with Dr. Myers. And what I do with my water, I have nice, clean, filtered water. Although we have a nice well here and good well water, we go ahead and filter it anyway. And then I put 1/4 teaspoon of Himalayan pink sea salt into a quart of water, and that's what I consume all day long. Start out with a plan. You need a plan, and having a goal in mind would be good. The goal may be the ability to walk a certain distance comfortably. It may be to lift a certain amount of weight, or to lose a certain amount of weight if weight loss is part of it. So having a specific goal in mind, or goals plural, would be a good thing. How do you achieve those goals? Well, it's going to be different things for different people. Most of them involve two things: time and money. Time and money. An exercise that most anybody can do, given the fact that you're probably able to ambulate, is just simply walk. That's it. Simply walk. And like I say, if you can ambulate, you can do this. It involves getting a good pair of shoes or boots, depending on where you're walking, and just get out there and do it. Start out with short distances and work your way up to greater distances. You may want to carry a backpack with some weight in it, maybe some books, something that adds a little bit of weight incrementally. And walking up hills and down hills gives you more bang for your buck in terms of how long you're out there and how much benefit you get. We got a caller on hold here. We got Steve in Iowa. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. On the previous program, before you came on, there was a guest that called, Vincent Vanelli, I think his name is, and the guest was stating something about using Mobil 1 motor oil for cleaning and lubing firearms. What's your opinion?
Well, the special operators have been going to Mobil 1, the guys who do this for a living, and it's a synthetic lubricant, of course. AMSOIL now has a synthetic lubricant for cleaning and lubricating firearms also. And that seems to be the direction that the industry is going, to use synthetics for lubrication and cleaning firearms.
You ever heard of Marvel's Mysterious Oil?
Oh, yes. It's been around forever.
And that's pretty much the same thing as the Mobil 1 and the AMSOIL? I mean, it does the same thing?
I don't believe Marvel Mystery Oil is synthetic. I'm pretty sure it's not. It's been around before synthetics were ever dreamed of.
Okay. No sweat. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the call. Yeah. Well, that's the special operators, the men who are in special forces, whether it's Navy SEALs or Green Berets or Marine Force Recon. They're going towards the synthetics for cleaning and lubricating their firearms. That's the way that industry is going. Well, getting back to physical fitness. All right. I'm a big advocate of stretching. It's something that is looked at as not as important by most athletes, many athletes, especially younger ones. They do it because they're told to. But the more you're involved in athletics and physical fitness, the more you, at least for myself anyway, the more I realize that stretching is just as important as the workout itself. It is. Getting muscles and ligaments and joints warmed up by stretching is incredibly important. You need to be warm, and it's good to be wear a warm-up suit, by the way, and be warm. You want sweat is a good thing. You want to sweat, and I always work out wearing a warm-up suit, and depending on the temperature, I'll work up a light sweat or maybe a heavier sweat, depending on how hard the workout is. But I've basically been doing many of the same stretching exercises for more than half a century. I look forward to them because it gives me an indication of my level of physical fitness when I'm doing that stretching. And pushing the limits is part of the stretching also. Getting warmed up real nice is part of the workout. So do those stretching exercises and then go ahead and proceed to walk. You may think, well, I don't need to stretch to walk. Well, you do. You do. You may not need to stretch to perform the walking exercise, but the stretching is good in and of itself, even if you don't walk. In fact, there's times when if I have limited time, if I'm got an appointment I need to get to and time is limited, I'll just do the stretching. And not if I don't have time for the workout, I'll just do the stretching and take my shower and get dressed and head off for my appointment. You'll feel better. You'll feel better once you do the stretching. Now, let's talk about the walk a little bit. It should be a brisk walk. Now, when I walk around the ranch here, typically I have a rifle or a pistol with me. There's always something that needs to be killed, such as an armadillo, for example. Armadillos are very, very destructive. We do have dangerous predators that can hurt people around here, such as copperhead snakes, which are poisonous. The occasional rattlesnake, I don't see that many. More frequently, a water moccasin, which are also poisonous. And they just need to be killed. And having a firearm with me certainly aids in that, achieving that goal. keep it interesting. You don't need to take the same walk every day. I've different locations I've lived. I've had different routes I've walked, and I always enjoy seeing something new in the neighborhood, seeing the changes in the seasons, whether it's an urban area or a suburban or out here in the country. I recall finding out that my county prosecutor was my neighbor by walking the neighborhood. I saw him out raking his leaves one day when I lived in Metro St. Louis, and find out that he lived within a half mile of my house, which I had no idea that the prosecuting attorney of St. Louis County lived within a half mile of my home. But so you're going to learn things when you take your walk. Now, I mentioned a moment ago wearing a backpack. Now, it should be, especially if you're in an urban suburban area, something that doesn't attract attention for being a mil-spec. It should look like a routine backpack that people wear going to and from on their work to commute, for example. And just put some books in it and start out with maybe just 8 or 10 pounds of books, and incrementally over every week, maybe add one book a week or add a book every 2 weeks, depending on your situation. And that will help increase the value of your walk. I mentioned hills a little bit ago. I recall a junior high school science experiment where we determined how many calories a person would burn by running up the steps of the football stadium there at the junior high school. And it was kind of a fun experiment to make that calculation and determine how many calories would be burned walking up the steps or running up the steps. So hills, walking up hills and walking down hills is a way to amplify the effect. If you're on a trail that is not paved and so forth, there's a certain level of chance of risk of injury, especially if a fairly steep hill, and you need to pay more careful attention walking up or walking down a hill if it's not paved to make sure you don't hurt yourself. That would be a wise thing, wouldn't it? I know people who use walking sticks. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't use a walking stick. It's just a matter of personal preference. I know if I'm walking in a city where I'm not allowed to carry a concealed weapon, which I was in Prague, Czech Republic this past summer, I carried a walking stick. And that walking stick served two purposes. It was a walking stick and also useful as a weapon if I needed to defend myself or defend somebody I was with. Fortunately, I didn't need that, but it gave me some peace of mind knowing that I had that walking stick. So that's something to consider too. I kept it in it was a collapsible walking stick. I had to do a little research to find a collapsible walking stick, so it collapsed and fit inside my suitcase very nicely. I was concerned about airlines not allowing canes on the aircraft. It turned out I saw any number of people that did carry their canes through security and onto the aircraft. So that's on international flights. So it doesn't seem to be too big a deal to be able to carry a cane through the airport security, which kind of surprised me because a cane certainly has potential to being used for a weapon. But that's the way it is. You can go through airport security carrying a cane. I didn't want to lose my cane at the airport security checkpoint, so I got the collapsible one that fit inside my luggage. It's a nice piece of equipment, by the way, and I just keep it with me all the time now in the parcel shelf of the town car if I need it for whatever reason. It's important not to do too much too fast. You're going to hurt yourself. Pain is your friend. Pain is God's way of reminding you, don't do that. Now, back when I was in athletics in junior high school and high school, the paradigm at the time, the belief at the time was you work through the pain. If it hurts, you just keep going. And that's what we did. That's simply the way it was. And that's the way I was trained, to ignore pain and keep doing the workout or continue playing the football game, whatever it might be. I don't believe that's done so much anymore. Football players get hurt and they play with pain. That's part of it. That's pretty much a given. But I've learned, at least personally, that if something's hurting, to back off and continue to work out up to the point the pain begins, and then back off. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. Thank you. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th day of December. Okay. Getting physically fit is important. It's not optional. I look at my peers, men and women my age, and it's very humbling to see the level of unfitness that these men and women have. I look at photographs in the local newspaper of the youngsters in high school, and I look at those and I think to myself, that's our future. Where about half or more, maybe 2/3 of the youngsters in high school are clearly, obviously overweight. And I don't blame the youngsters. Not at all. It's not their fault. I blame the parents and the adults that should be looking out for the best interest of these children to make sure that they have real nutrition as opposed to make-believe fake food. So much of what's sold in supermarkets these days, people consume, your body doesn't even recognize it as being food. And your body is very smart. This is the same body that it built itself from an egg and a sperm. It looks at this stuff being consumed. What am I going to do with this? This stuff is coming down from my mouth to my throat to my stomach, my intestines. The body's thinking, what am I going to do with it? I got to put it somewhere. It's not going to help this human being that I am be healthy and achieve goals. Well, we got to store it someplace, get it out of the way where it can do the least amount of harm. So we'll store it in fat to get it all out of the way, and hopefully we can get something out of this stuff that's being consumed to keep me alive. That's what's going on with a lot of what we consume. Our food has changed. It has definitely changed, and it keeps changing. I was at my mother-in-law's the other day, and we decided that we would have gluten-free pizza for dinner, and I went and picked up a couple of gluten-free pizzas. But wheat itself has changed. These farmers are very bright men and women, by the way, and they're in the business of growing wheat and harvesting it and selling it to make a living. And I certainly appreciate that. They somehow figured out an off-label usage for the product called Roundup, which the active ingredient is called glyphosate. Off-label usage means it's being used in a manner that the manufacturer never intended. Somehow, some way, the farmers figured out that if they sprayed their wheat with Roundup a short time before it was ready for harvest, that it would cause the wheat to have a dramatically larger increase in the yield. The process of killing the wheat, which is what the Roundup does, causes the yield to increase, thereby increasing the profit that the wheat farmers get from selling the wheat, because there's more of it. So the off-label usage of Roundup on the wheat causes increased yield. It also causes contamination of the wheat with the glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup. Glyphosate is very harmful to human beings, by the way. It is truly very harmful. So part of physical conditioning is proper nutrition. You can't separate one from the other. It can't be done. It can't. And mass media and advertising convinces people that things like Gatorade, for example, is beneficial to human beings. Nothing could be further from the truth. Gatorade is loaded up with artificial sweeteners, and you do your homework. There's a free download at my website. If you haven't printed this out, it's only about 16 or 18 pages. The free download is titled "The Artificially Sweetened Times." It's a compendium of many articles, several dozen articles, about the harmful effects of artificial sweeteners. And it's an eye-opener. It really is an eye-opener. Sadly and unfortunately, I've come to understand that people get physically addicted to diet sodas. It's not just a emotional addiction. It's a physical addiction. Once you get hooked on that stuff, your body demands to have it. I remember when the first diet sodas came out when I was in high school, and I tasted one, and I thought, boy, this is disgusting. I'm not going to drink this stuff anymore. But people, initially they're convinced that, oh, yes, this is great. I can drink this tasty beverage, this soft drink, and not gain any weight. So I can drink as much as I want, cause no harm to myself. And that's what people think when they start consumption of these beverages, these artificially sweetened beverages. When in reality, what the artificial sweetener does is turn off the brain's ability to release the chemical when you've been eating a good meal, for example, the chemical that tells you, I'm satisfied, I'm full, I can stop eating. Which is why we frequently see so many obese people consuming dramatic amounts of diet sodas. That's why. Because they can't get that feeling that, oh, I've had a great meal. What would a great evening meal be for you folks? Let's say a T-bone steak, a baked potato, a couple of vegetables in the evening, or maybe for a noon meal. At some point during that meal, you start getting that full, satisfied feeling. You can't get that when you're consuming diet soda. It can't be done. Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th day of December. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. At my website, you'll find interesting free downloads. I mentioned one earlier. You really need to print that out for if you know anybody who consumes diet soda or any food product with artificial sweeteners. You really need that copy of the Artificially Sweetened Times. Do it. Seriously, do it. Another free download there is a book titled The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. A great book. There's probably 24 plus books of a similar genre on one hand. On the other, very few of them. There are some exceptions, but most of them do not give you specific instructions on how to achieve those goals. But that particular book does. Another free download at my website. Of course, also at my website, you'll find energy cleaners for sale. I picked up a fresh batch from Tom Berryhill Sunday. I'm getting more later this week. It's the time of year when we really get covered up with orders. And this is my 8th year, and about half my sales at this point are repeat customers, people getting them for their siblings, for their children, for their parents, and friends that are hurting and need to get their lives back. If you have arthritis pain or joint pain or back pain, energy cleaner will most likely help. Not getting a great night's sleep, well, it'll probably help there also. Keep in mind, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee that procrastination isn't going to get the pain to go away, that arthritis pain, almost 100%. There may be some exceptions. People with arthritis pain, they get relief with the energy cleaner. They really do. Only $285 shipping included. The mattress pads go with the energy cleaner. You need to check out the mattress pads. They vary in price by size. Twin, full, queen, king, California king, and of course the handy travel size. Yes, at my website you can place your order using PayPal, MasterCard, Visa, and of course you can send me a check. My address is right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. I have a toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Physical fitness. Everybody's going to have different goals, different ways of achieving their goals, different limitations. Everybody has limitations. The 20-year-old Force Recon Marine has limitations. The 70-year-old grandmother has limitations. Everybody has limitations. That's just part of the human condition. Of course there's limitations. But you work with inside those limitations. You don't anguish over what you can't do. It's highly unlikely that John Moore will ever run the 100-meter dash in under 12 seconds, as I could have 50 years ago. That's not going to happen. But it's realistic that I could run a 100-meter dash in under 16 seconds and possibly under 15 seconds. That's realistic. And I take joy and comfort in what I can do. I don't anguish on and dwell over what I no longer can do. Most of our high school gyms had those thick ropes hanging from the gymnasium ceiling. And when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, I would climb to the top of the gymnasium, hands only, and come back down, hands only. And that was fun. Quite frankly, it wasn't too much of a challenge, but it was fun. Can I do that anymore? Probably not, but I can still do it using my feet. No big deal. We got a caller on hold here. We got Dan in Missouri. Good morning, Dan.
Hey, good morning, John. On another topic of things on your website, I haven't heard much about Randall Terry here lately. I caught him last night about midnight on my satellite system, my free-to-air system from Rick's Satellite, and he's still going strong. Have you been in contact with him lately, or anything?
I haven't talked to Randall. He's had some family issues and things he's been dealing with, and I don't know if there's been resolution on those things or not. But yeah, maybe it's time to catch up with Randall. I don't know really what's going on with him.
Well, he moved from about a 7 o'clock in the evening time slot on that free-to-air cable or free-to-air satellite TV. He moved from there down to about midnight, and I just stumbled on him last night. I should have been in bed, but I was looking at other stuff, and there he was. And his movie's still amazing. That What Would Muhammad Do? It's mind-blowing.
It is. I'm going to loan my copy to the pastor of the church I'm going to. I think he'll be fascinated by it. And it is for sale at my website, What Would Muhammad Do? Fascinating documentary. Very well documented using their own information, using the Quran itself and to prove what they're saying.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I'll tell you, I've had some good and bad luck loaning stuff out. Here lately, I've been loaning it with a $25 refundable fee because
that does help.
I'm sure. I'll give them their money back, and I'm glad to loan it out. But man, you loan it to somebody, and then they loan it to somebody, and then it's gone.
Well, what I do, I take sticky address labels, return address labels that you use for your mail, and I put 2 or 3 of them on the book or the DVD, and that seems to be pretty effective also.
That's a good idea. I got enough of them I could paper a room with them.
There you go.
All right, buddy. Thanks a million. We'll see you tomorrow night, I guess, at the meetup.
I'll be at the meetup, and everybody, you're all welcome. It's the J.R. Moore Radio Show meetup the first Thursday every month at the Benton Square Restaurant there in Rolla, Missouri. They don't call it the Benton Square Restaurant anymore, but the spa upstairs is still called the Benton Square Spa, I believe. Yeah. And and it's a lot of fun. It's a social event. We get together for dinner at 5 p.m. We go upstairs for the meeting at 6 p.m. It's free and open to the public. You do not need to buy dinner to attend.
It's a great old building. I'm glad they didn't razz it like so many other buildings.
Absolutely.
All right, Tom. Absolutely. Thanks a million.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it. Call number is 800-313-9443. Being physically fit will give you the ability to do the things you want to do with no compromise. That would be pretty good, wouldn't it? To do the things that you want to do with no compromise? I think so. And the level of, or I should say, the lack of physical fitness among American adults is scary and ubiquitous, but that's simply the way it is. It's scary and ubiquitous. Just sit in front of Walmart or any public place where a lot of people are coming and going and watch people walk past you. How many have a what appears to be a healthy gait with no limp and no pain? How many appear to be height weight proportionate? Well, it's pretty dismal. It is seriously dismal. But that doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be you. You can be the exception. You can be the person who is height-weight proportionate. You can be the person who walks with no pain and with a pleasant expression on your face. If you do what we suggest, myself, Leon Green, Dr. Myers, make those nutritional dietary changes, drink pure water, and have an exercise regimen that makes sense for you. What I do applies to me. It doesn't apply to you. There's very few people my age who would even attempt to do the things that I do physically. There's some, but not many. So don't worry about what John Moore does. Just focus on what works for you. That's where your focus needs to be, on what works for you. An individually tailored exercise program involving stretching, walking, maybe using free weights, maybe yoga, maybe some kind of dance routine. There's any number of things that would apply to you and your lifestyle and your physique, your body, where your starting point is. If you don't understand how to do this, you may want to seek out professional help in the form of some kind of coach that can coach you on an individual program for yourself. Local YMCA or YWCA, some kind of adult education program where they get into physical fitness. There's lots of possibilities all around that would help you customize a program just for yourself if you want that kind of assistance. Obviously, YouTube videos and books would be another way to get that information to customize a program for yourself. Whatever it takes. The main thing is get started and stop procrastinating and get started on your exercise program so that you also can achieve your goal. I think it'd be very worthwhile, don't you? Really, seriously. Don't you think so? I believe so. Get started, get on the road, and incrementally meet your goals. They're going to be different goals for different people. And you need to understand that and respect that. That's okay. That's the way it is. Yes. Getting out of that chair and getting started may be the hardest single part of it. It may be. But just go ahead and get started. That's what I think you should do. Seriously, that's what I think you should do. Move forward. Get that exercise program going, and you'll feel better. You'll incrementally get more flexibility, more strength, aerobic strength and anaerobic strength. You'll walk with more confidence. As you incrementally lose weight, your clothes won't fit anymore, but that's a small price to pay, isn't it? Having to buy new clothes that fit you properly. That would be a pretty good deal, wouldn't it? I think so. Yeah. Don't delay. We got this new year coming up. It's a pretty common New Year's resolution for people to resolve they're going to lose weight, and then within a month or so, that's forgotten about and people go on with their lives. Well, how bad do you want it? Seriously, how bad do you want it? That's what it's going to come down to, is desire and motivation. If the desire and motivation is strong enough, you will achieve your goal. You will. Nothing's going to get between you and achieving that goal if you have the desire and the motivation. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Far from it. Breaking old habits, changing your eating habits, setting aside a little bit of time to do your workout. Whatever it takes. And you may find that doing everything in your living room would be the way to go, because you've eliminated the commute time. And the commute time by itself, for most people, would be as long as a workout. And of course, there's a social aspect to going to a gym, which there's value there, and I don't discount that, the value of the social aspect of working out with other people and intermingling and communicating with other people. There is value to that. And that may be, if that's what it takes for you to get involved, hey, go for it. By all means, go for it. Whatever it takes, go for it and get going. No time like the present. Seriously, no time like the present to get started, get motivated, get your program together, make it a regular routine. And if you skip a day, that's going to happen. You may have something come up, a wedding, a funeral, something at work. Don't let that stop you permanently just because you miss a couple of days or even a week. Get back into it. I've seen that happen with my own workouts where there'll be a distraction, something comes up, and I don't work out for 3 or 4 days. And getting started again is not easy. It's not. But you need to do it anyway, even if it's not easy. Yeah. You'll be glad. You'll thank yourself. Your body will thank you. Seriously. And you'll feel better after a month or two. People will comment, are you doing, you look different. Are you doing something different? Are you losing weight? You have a certain glow about you. And when you're healthy, and have better physical fitness, your outward appearance does look better. And people will notice. And it all builds on itself. And that's a good thing also, isn't it? To have it build on itself. My goal here today is to encourage you. Don't be discouraged. You're going to have limitations. Respect the limitations. Work within limitations and move forward. That's what, in my opinion, what you need to be doing. Respecting those limitations and moving forward to the point where you do workarounds on limitations. You do what you need to do to be healthy and work within those limitations. Absolutely. Go for it. And don't worry about the consequences. As long as you don't get sideways with what your doctor recommends, you're going to be okay. You will. You'll be okay. And this will help you in every part of your life. Your professional life, your personal life, your preparedness. Every part of your life will be enhanced by being in better physical condition. It will be. Yeah. Don't talk yourself out of it. Oh, I can't do that. Well, yes, you can. Yeah, you can. You can. You can talk yourself out of anything. And conversely, you can talk yourself into anything. Talking yourself into something that's healthy and productive, I think, is wise. Something that will stand you in good stead. I'm very grateful for the physical condition I'm in. And you should be glad for whatever health you enjoy, wherever it might be. Here's our last break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Wednesday, the 6th day of December. New Year coming up. It'll be the New Year in 3 weeks. Tomorrow we have the remembrance of Pearl Harbor, the day we'll live in infamy, the day that Franklin Roosevelt made sure that the U.S. fleet anchored at Pearl Harbor went to the bottom of the ocean. That was by design, by the way. And yes, he knew it in advance. But New Year's coming up in 3 weeks, a great time to really review where you are physically, make determinations about where you want to be physically, and then set up a program. And it needs to be ink on paper, by the way, with very specific goals in mind, that by 1st of January 2019, I will have achieved such and such goal, whatever it might be. It's going to be different things for different people, obviously. You know, New Year's resolutions, they come and they go. Most of them are just verbal statements to family and friends. If you go to the point of ink on paper, a goal, and have it posted someplace where you can see it every day on the wall. I've done this personally, by the way, and it does work. An ink on paper goal that's dated and signed that by such and such date I will achieve such and such goal. That does work. It will be very effective. And I encourage people to do that. A written goal, ink on paper, posted on the wall where you have no choice but to see it every morning when you get up, which would be your bedroom, your bathroom, kitchen, wherever it might be. You may have a couple of copies in a couple of different places. And do it. That's what more can I say? Just get up and do it. No excuses. No procrastination. Move forward. The things we have coming at us, there are some inevitable things on a geopolitical matter, which we don't have time to talk about anymore this morning, but it's inevitable that things will change and not change for the better. That is inevitable. And the better physical condition you're in, the better you'll be off to help yourself and the people you care about. So don't procrastinate. Write down those goals, ink on paper. You know, if you want to put them on an electronic device, go for it, but ink on paper, someplace where you have no choice but to see them and read them every day. First thing when you get up and last thing when you go to bed. Yes. No choice. No choice at all. And you'll be glad. You'll be very glad that you have done this as you incrementally work towards achieving your goal. You'll be very glad. And you should be. You should be, because it's meeting that challenge and reaching that goal is something to be proud of. It is, and what your achievement might help somebody else achieve their goal. That would be good, wouldn't it? To help somebody else achieve their goal because they've seen the success that you have. It's all a win-win situation, every bit of it. That's it for the day. Get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils now while you can. Your firearms, ammunition, never ever give up your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day. And God bless America.